Hello, my name's Tim. Welcome to Tim Burbage Reads, and today I'm going to be talking to you about Congo by Michael Crichton. So, Michael Crichton is an author who I've read a bit of, and this is one of his more famous books. It was made into a film, a very famously terrible film. But what is Congo about? So, deep in the heart of the darkest region of the Congo, near the legendary ruins of the lost city of Zinj, an 8-person field expedition dies mysteriously and brutally in a matter of minutes. 10,000 miles away at the Houston-based Earth Resources Technology Services, Inc., Supervisor Karen Ross watches a gruesome video transmission of that ill-fated team. A camp destroyed, tents crushed and torn, equipment scattered in the mud alongside bodies, and the grainy, moving image of a dark, blurred shape. In San Francisco, primatologist Peter Elliott works with Amy, an extraordinary gorilla with a 620 sign vocabulary and a fondness for finger painting. Her recent drawing matches with stunning accuracy the frayed, brittle pages of a Portuguese print dating back to 1642, a drawing of the ancient lost city. Immediately, a new expedition is sent into the Congo, descending into a secret world where the only way out may be through the grisliest death. Pretty cool. It says on the front, an old-fashioned thriller-diller. And this is fairly old-fashioned. This was written in 1980. It's set in 1979. It's kind of concurrent. It's current timings. So Michael Crichton typically, in his tech thrillers, takes a bit of technology and just kind of pluses it, takes it to 11. You know, Jurassic Park, it was about gene sequencing. This covers a couple of different areas of science, and some which I found more interesting than others. So the first is primatology, so the study of apes, chimps, orangutans, gorillas, and their look on how they've used sign language, how they view other apes who necessarily can't sign, how what ape psychology basically, which I found very, very interesting to read. I love the Planet of the Apes films as well, especially like the new set, and just super interesting. And the other side was about laser technology and data processing, which I found almost as interesting, but not quite. So the main point, they want to go in to find these diamonds, these boron tainted diamonds, which would be incredibly useful in computer processors. And this is technology that we're still happening today. You know what I mean? We still have a big, let's say, imbalance between rare earth metal locations around the world and their use in computer processors. Here, obviously, the technology is 40 years out of date, so it's a bit quaint at times. There's a whole section right at the start on how they use information, and they get it from one kind of tape to another kind of tape, and they go into a lot of detail about how you transfer information from one tape to another, and I'm like, good for you at the time. But yeah, I think the primatology is the bit that I found the most interesting. I think that's where this kind of stumbles a bit, in that it kind of is trying to do a bit too much, because you've got the lost city of Zinj, you've got diamonds, you've got Amy the gorilla, you also have whatever is in the jungle. You have an interesting group of characters. You've got ideas on computers and science, and you've got ideas on lasers. There's like futuristic technology that they use. And then right at the end, they're like, oh, and computers are going to decide how warfare works. And I'm like, what? Why are we talking about this? Like, focus on, for me, the most interesting bit, which are the apes. Focus on that. That's the cool bit for me. Why are we talking about this other stuff? And also one choice, just a slight prose thing. So this, Michael Crichton is, I think, the expert at tension. There is constant tension because there's so many different things going on, and you're going, oh, this is another barrier for them to complete. And there's loads of really cool scenes in this, and the tension ratchets us up. You know, anything that can go wrong does go wrong on this expedition, and they're constantly trying to succeed. and you're on board with them. You want them to succeed. But then right at the end, I hadn't noticed it at all throughout the whole book, but right at the end, there was just a slight word choice, which is, I'm just going to read this. So like, I think this is very close to the end of the book, but I don't think this is a spoiler. They had no food, no water, and very little ammunition. They dragged themselves through the jungle, clothes burned and torn, faces haggard, exhausted. They did not speak to one another, but silently pressed on. What's going to happen? Are they going to get out of this? Eliot said later they were living through a nightmare. Well then, I know he's okay, because he said later that they were living through a nightmare. Like, that immediately takes me out of the story. Like, and there's no other mention of kind of a framing narrative in this at all. It just randomly appears right towards the end. And yeah, that kind of really took me out of it. So those are a couple of things I don't like. So it's not a 5-star read for me. But what did I like? So many scenes in this are incredible. I loved the idea of the lost city. We look at the idea of genetic memory. We look at the idea of ape primatology, evolution. I love Amy as a character, the ape. She's brilliant. I love her as a character. There's a mercenary character called Monroe, who is brilliant. I really like him because he's not a good guy. He's not a good guy, but he really wants the expedition to succeed, and he's willing to do whatever it takes, and he kind of takes that leadership role. And he knows a lot about the jungle, the Congo. There is some parts in here which I don't think have aged super well, but I don't take that, like, it was written in the time, and he did, you know, there is a introduction where he talks about, Michael Crichton talks about going to the Congo for research, you know, in the country of Zaire at the time, and who he wants to thank and all that kind of thing. So there is stuff that kind of hits at, you know, stereotypes of jungle life that maybe aren't accurate, which I'm okay with. But some people might read that and be like, no, don't like that. That's fine. But yeah, I love the idea of primatology and apes learning and how they learn and what they're interested in. So there's a point where, like, their Amy's association with time, how we always say looking forward as in stuff that is going to happen, and looking back as something that has happened. Well, in her mind, it's the other way around. Stuff that has happened is in front of you because you can see it, because you lived through it. While stuff behind you haven't seen yet, it's coming up on you. So that's the future. And how, you know, Peter Elliot, the scientist, will say to Amy, this is happening later today. And she'll come and sit at the door and then look behind her, even though she's looking at the door. For the person to come through, she'll like look behind her, because that's what's coming up for her, is that because her future is behind her. That's how her brain works. Found that really interesting. Yeah, and Monroe, the leader, they kind of go to this really tense negotiation because there's different corporate shenanigans going on, and he's kind of holding an auction for his services. And then there's a shootout in the middle of it, and they kind of agree on the cuff. Really, really fun, really good dialogue. Yeah, I like Karen Ross as a character because she's not perfect, and she's kind of constantly trying to do the best that she can, and she's kind of fairly stuck up and not super approachable. None of these are perfect people by any stretch, and I found that engaging to read, and their interactions with each other and their conflicts between each other were really good. So for me, this is 4 stars. Michael Crichton is still a great writer, and I want to read more of it. Maybe because the last book I read was Airframe, and it was basically 100% real, or it felt 100% real. The more fantastical elements of this maybe kind of brought me out a little bit of it, but it felt like it was just trying to do a little bit too much and could do a little bit tightening and focus. But yeah, so let me know if you've read Congo, which is one of Roy's more popular books, and what Michael Crichton book you would recommend next. So give this video a like, please subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Now, get out of my house!